morning, and welcome to this morning's Wuxing Long Pai Qigong, Taijiquan, and Baguazhang. My name is Jeff Cote, and I am the Occidental Taoist. We're going to begin this morning, our usual warm-up, and then we're going to continue to examine the 8-move form, looking at it from the context of the shapes we are creating and how intent forms into that. We started to do that a little bit earlier in the week. We'll do it again a little bit today. So let's start feet shoulder width and parallel. Tongue lightly touches the roof of the mouth. Establish that zhongding, that central equilibrium. The sense of the bai hui is extended gently upward. Everything else is draining downward. Tailbone is down and relaxed, extending towards the ground. We're soft and buoyant in the legs. Playing around with the hua here, the ability to open and close hua to create this bounce. And how that interacts with inside of the leg, the yin channels, and the bubbling well points through the instep, and that sort of buoyancy and pliability of the feet. Pay attention to yin and yang channels with the legs, the torso, and the structure. Tongue lightly touches the roof of the mouth. Breathing into and out from the dantian. Hands out in front of the dantian, and we begin with just a slow expansion coordinated with the breath. And bounce. Counter swing. and counter columns. Relax. A little Ling Kong Jing, starting at the Dantian level. chest height, middle dantian level. Back down to the lower dantian in reverse direction. Chest height. Wuji just for a short period. We won't hold it too long because we've already done a lot of standing with the Ling Kong Jing. And relax. Hands, wrists, and fingers. Other way. Elbows. Other way. Shoulders. Shoulders down when the hands go up. Other way. Trunk twists from the center. Adding the daimai. And the hips. Bladder channel is on the outside of the legs. Liver channel on the inside middle. Stomach channel outside front. Spleen channel inside front. Bladder channel down the back. Kidney channel down the back inside. Up the back inside. Do that sequence again. Gallbladder on the sides. Liver in the middle. Stomach in the front outside. Spleen on the front inside. Bladder channel down the back. Kidney channel up the front inside back. Or inside back, I should say. Waist rotations. Circling the daimon. Other way. Waist down to the ball and socket joints of the hips, widen the feet, sinking down into the legs. Start with opening the ball and socket joint, letting that like draw, like pulling a bow. You're going to pull this open. Try to get the tendons and all the tissues and relationships here just to open up a little bit. Small circles. Always managing the triangle of the foot. And the other way. The other side. Again, that ball and socket joint pull, rotating it the other way. And both of them working like this together while getting that sense of being pulled open. So we're kind of moving the energy around the pelvic floor. So up on the perineum at this time, you can feel that chi connect through the inside, the yin channels of the legs, right to that perineum, right to that hui yin point. Okay. And then alternating back and forth. Turn. Feeling those individual rotations. Rotates around and under. Rotates around and under. If you work with a dragon rolling pearl, you can feel how this turning sphere mirrors this turning that's happening in the joints and in the dantian. Like this hand is mirroring how the tension and energy is running around the joint, over the top, down and under. Same thing here, top, down and under. So it's like my hand is guiding the chi around the ball and socket joint. And through it, eventually, even the energy that passes through the intention and action and momentum. And we can go the other way. Side. Like for me, this left side, less clear, less smooth. I work it a few times. And back to the fourth again. and close. Patting the leg. And friction rubbing the knee. Together, small circle with the knees. Away. Deep bends. Ankle and hip. Other way. Foot and ankle. Other way. Brushing the grass. Right. Behind. Yeah, switch legs. Other side. Ankle and hip. Other way. Foot and ankle. Other way. Brushing the grass. Other way. Behind. And shift it up. Remember in those brushing the grass, I'm always imagining that resistance so that I can always stabilize. I'm having to always work at as to whether I'm going back. So I have this dynamic stabilizing action happening from the core through the leg, always interrelating with the ground. Okay? And the action. Always imagining that I might encounter some resistance that I have to neutralize. So as I'm moving, if I encounter resistance, I neutralize it into the ground. I don't push against it. Instead, I receive it and neutralize it into the ground. So I'm restabilizing any new input that might come in. All right. Elongate the legs, elongate the spine, flatten the back, lift the sacrum, fold at the waist, and open up the hamstrings. Nice and slow. Take your time. No rush. If you notice a place of tension, pause and elongate until that releases some. Balance left and right, inside to out. side. And the other side. Dragon circle the pond. Consider squat stance. And inguinal stretch. Hands down. Legs on the elbows. Heels up. Start with just gently rocking one side, then the other. Just exploring range of motion. And if you're so inclined, you can suspend. Just maximize the weight into opening those hips. Kind of rotate those knees out. Tailbone down. Back up. Roll the spine up. And jagged spine. And wild horse shakes his mane. All right. Let's explore that move to each side, the short mirror. Excuse me. Season. Love the autumn. There's a lot in the air right now. All right, we're going to start feet together, central equilibrium. Again, we're going to examine this very first move. The sleeping dragon awakens to find the root. Dirt on my hands, got it in the scalp. All right, find the triangles of both feet. Feel your center line. Gentle jing draw on the perineum. Good strong ding. Tongue lightly touches the roof of the mouth. And it's like meridian flow when we begin. We inhale, letting our awareness go from the bubbling well point up the yin channels of the legs on the inside. Right to the Hui Yin, through that Song Mai all the way up, but also out the yin meridians of the chest and shoulders. Out the yin meridians of the arms, the hands, the yang meridians of the arms, and then which goes up and onto the head, and then from the head down through the yang meridians of the torso and legs. Just letting your awareness kind of cycle through that meridian flow. When we finish, releasing, gently extending down, palms back. Let's do that again. Meridian flow, right? Tongue lightly touches the roof of the mouth. And Taiji beginning. We expand. I want you to make space everywhere. It's just and deflecting left and right. It's just like Dragon Rolls of Pearl. We receive and press. There's a spiral twist that translates into the arms as this receives and turns, it naturally creates this action. Same thing here, it naturally expands and creates this action. So we get then the follow through. As we get that, just like I said, just like Dragon Rolling Pearl, except turn the foot. Remember, I've always got the sense of my awareness of this sphere of my personal space. I have this pung energy, this ward off, that's an outreach from the center outward to receive in and neutralize it into the ground. Even while I'm changing shape and changing form, all of that is always happening in the background on which my yin and yang changes occur. And again, I'm always trying to work with what's natural. So here I've got this receiving, rotating in, and this expanding, rotating out that reaches its peak and releases, right? And we want to feel where these changes come to their natural conclusion within our own range, and encounters our tension. And the whole time we're trying to release our tension into the flow of this action. Okay, so let's go from here again into then everything returns towards the center briefly as I reposition and expand out to receive in. Now remember, this is about this as well as straight forward and back with a rotation and back forward. So if we combine those three elements of the sphere, expanding and contracting, compressing, condensing, as I shift and turn back, and then as I shift and turn forward, it expands back out. I get a strong sense of what's really going on. Meanwhile, I'm having to change that within the changing dynamic of this moving forward and back, right? Of this becoming yang, this becoming yin, receptive versus expansive. Okay, so let's do that again with the up to there. And I always train myself to drop, then shift, never fall. Always drop and shift. Being pulled into this leg as it connects with gravity, but not fall, never getting ahead where your upper body is falling. Instead, this leg making contact with the ground pulls you across. And then you learn to establish that central equilibrium quick. From here, we've got that split, receive and expand. Again, we still have that pong, ward off energy, that sense of outreach to receive and neutralize. Whatever we encounter, whatever resistance, power, energy we encounter gets neutralized to the ground while we continue to expand. Now here, there's that sense of expansion and rotation, and compression and rotation back. So there's some spirals happening, but there's also this sort of elliptical movement of the arms. But that comes out of this spiraling out, spiraling, spiraling out, spiraling out, spiraling out, spiraling in, spiraling out, spiraling in. Together, spiraling out, spiraling in. Right? Split and open. Cross the hands. Split and open. Small, can be big. Always within receiving, expanding, right? And it's that same spiral expansion out and back in. Now they're working together instead of opposite. The same idea, again, smaller. Got here, big, small. Step. It's like, think of this like a wave. We've got this undertow, this wave over. It releases. Okay. But don't. Try not to lift and fall. Have that energy move through you. I'm exaggerating it so you can see the motion of it. Squeeze. Whole column of the body from the center line. In this Pung manner, right? We receive and neutralize. Receive here, expand here. We're always receiving to neutralize. Follow through with that energy. Two dragons seal the gate. Come out, the sense of expanding. Expanding. The sphere is expanding, and that creates a flow that pulls this along. And again, we have that same sort of wave, but now it's bigger. And instead of here, it's a little further out. And that same wave here. And out. Expand low, let that draw this hand with it. And with the step at the end, we've got rolling the pearl. It's just dragon rolls pearl. Feet are close, and I'm keeping it to the right. But it's still centralized energy. It's doing everything. This, here, all sorts of activities of torso action here. Here, right? The martial art of this, you can see all of this potentiality here. This is lots of elbow training, learning to use your torso in a small space. You know, if you're into the martial art of it. Even if you're not, though, you're learning to work with the power that comes from here and expresses through this action. Right? This is that movement. Learn to feel it. Learn to be able to anchor, like root this, so that if you encounter again, you can still neutralize. If I encounter force or energy here, I'm not going to fight with it. I'm going to neutralize its weight into the ground, letting my power express without meeting its resistance, instead neutralizing its resistance. Because neutralization is very powerful and very important. I'm always working with the concept that anytime I encounter anything, I'm grounding it. I'm not pushing against it. I'm receiving it. That receptivity is very important, very important. It keeps you out of that yang, I'm going to fight with it, and keeps you into this sense of I'm in partnership with it. I'm not hitting it. I'm simply expressing power through this other thing, person, object, whatever, resistance, force, whatever. I'm letting it into my experience. I'm joining with it, and I'm taking it into account, everything about its physical dynamics and its changing dynamics, so that I'm constantly readjusting its relationship to the ground through me. And then hook with crane's bill. This is that looping around, encountering, and just coiling. This is a coiling around something as you encounter it, instead of impacting and moving through. It's a different energy. It's coiling around and drawing in. So coiling around and drawing in, coiling around and drawing in, coiling around, getting this smooth dynamic, which also trains you to get the shoulder, elbow, wrist loose and connected to the center. It's still, the force is still being generated here. It's expressing through fluidity in this arm and shoulder. So this is a really good practice to loosen this up. So you can see from the side. Same thing here. We can do that on the other side here. All of these little exercises, you'll find in the form, there's all these different little training exercises in there that are really useful. This is very useful for connecting the center to the hands, but also having a very supple, loose shoulder. Lots of trouble for people, right? That's a fun one too. Check it out. If doing this tightens your shoulder, relax it down. Do it lower. Learn to do it lower until you can get that fluid movement, and then bring it up higher. Let's look at that again. Rolling the pearl and hook with crane split. Then expand low. And the beginning stage is expand high. Just that. This is all we're really doing. Just right. But eventually you learn how to let it be like a wave that moves through your body. Coiling action. We get that same coil, right? Same coiling. And we come shoulder, elbow, wrist, hand. So it's like a whip. But you can start with just big circle. If you have trouble with the individual sort of that wave, that coil that loosens out, start with a big circle. Learn to get loose and have it expand. Start with that. And then from there, start to work on that coil. And you can exaggerate it. Shoulder, elbow, wrist, hand, fingers. Shoulder, elbow, wrist, hand, fingers. So you get to feel. And then you have to connect that to the receiving and expanding in the legs. Right? A lot of little elements have to come together here. I'm showing you a difference. If you lead with your hand, it looks like that. If you lead from the inside out, it looks like this. Coiling. And catch and pull down. This is the same thing again. We've got exaggeration, small movement. Dragon plays in clouds is what this looks like, right? Dragon plays in clouds. So you've got that single whip, catch and pull down, and deflect right. Single whip, catch and pull down, deflect right. Single whip, catch and pull down, deflect right. Press, step around, and turn on the heel. The stepping around, I've mentioned this before, it's valuable to, I don't have one of my shoes with me, but I oftentimes will put a shoe right here, right behind my heel, so that I train myself to step around. Step around and around here. You can see, squeeze. This is squeeze and expand. It's a squeeze and press, right? I'm just doing that. Where am I here? Press, squeeze, and press. And immortal times immortal again. And close. So in there, I've kind of shown different mechanics. Now, this was a lesson where I was kind of breaking it apart, going back and forth, letting you see in repetition quickly the action that might be there, so that you can kind of get a sense of the movement and the flow. You've got to do it over and over and over again until you can feel those changes happen inside the body, right? Whether it's single whip this way, single whip this way, catch and pull down, etc. You start to see how it all fits together. And then eventually, you start to understand the principles under each movement and what's underlying all of them together. And you realize that it's all really the same thing. Outreach to receive, neutralize, expand, and return. Shosha, thank you guys very much. Thanks for joining me this morning for Wuxing Long Pai Qigong Taijiquan. We didn't get to much Baguazhang. We haven't in quite a while, but we will at some point again too. I find that most people are really interested in getting this form piece down, especially this little mirror form first is a really good practice to get all the basics, and then we can begin to explore some other elements, and we will. All right. Thank you guys again for joining me. You can find me on Patreon, patreon.com/Occidental Taoist. If you you'd like to make a donation, you can also go to my coffee page. That's ko-fi.com/Occidental Taoist. I've got some Qigong live stream and some writings and stuff I put up on Facebook occasionally. And again, Facebook, I believe it's facebook.com/Occidental Taoist, or you can just put in Occidental Taoist or the Occidental Taoist on Facebook and I'll come up, and you can go to my page. If you haven't liked it, like it, follow, go check out my videos there. And of course, there's here on YouTube. I've got every Tuesday and Thursday. I try to release one every once in a while. I've had some technical issues, particularly as I've had to also pick up some covering for somebody who was injured and needed some classes covered for them. And so I've had to really kind of try to squeeze it in, and I've had technical issues with the way I needed to squeeze it in. But that'll all be over in October anyway, so we'll return back to no more technical issues. Hopefully, as we move into colder weather and I move indoors. And I may be looking at doing Zoom for this instead, because I've been contacted by the Harvard Council on Aging, which these are the time slots for Harvard. So I may be making some adjustments, but I'll inform you here as that comes into being. All right. Thank you guys very much. May you have many blessings of radiant health and a peaceful, happy heart. Shusha.